Welcome back, you all, to CHT 203, Chapter 2, Emergent and Early Literacy. Um, One of the things we talked about for Chapter 1 and was about how the connection between adults and children when it comes to literacy. And so one of the first things in your book, is the quote, and it says, "Children are made readers on the laps of their parents." And we talk often about how the parents are the children's first teacher. And so in this particular chapter, we're going to talk about how parents can influence emergent and early literacy and also how teachers do. So let's get started. This is a little long, so bear with me, okay? But it's all very important information. So what is, oh, let me move me down here so you can see, okay? What is emergent literacy? Well, emergent literacy is the process involving the development of language and concepts, especially when connected with young children's experiences starting at birth. Communication and the expression of ideas are the first steps on the journey to literacy. This process may include listening, speaking, signing, writing, using gestures, and many other ways in which children comprehend and communicate their experiences and knowledge of the world. And here's the thing. The big aha, the biggest thing about reading is that ultimately when children are reading, the biggest part is the comprehension, right? There's a lot of steps we have to go through, but at the end, that is the big aha. That is the thing that we want children to be able to do, is to comprehend what they read, okay? Language development is a key factor in establishing a foundation for literacy, and young children need a safe, nurturing, healthy, and print-rich environment to learn. So reading aloud, discussion, singing, dramatic play, and story time are all strategies that can help develop language and literacy skills. And what we know is that children should be guided and supported by caring adults starting at birth to eventually become independent readers and writers. So let's get started. What are the concepts of emergent and early literacy? Emergent literacy implies that children learn to read while they are developing their foundational literacy skills, such as alphabetic knowledge. And alphabetic knowledge has to deal with sight words and concepts about print. Early literacy refers to the beginning stages of reading and writing. Young children must learn to recognize all 26 letters of the alphabet, including uppercase and lowercase, as well as the individual consonant and vowel sounds. They must also memorize over 300 sight words. And sight words are words that appear frequently in all beginning reading. And typically, these are words that cannot be decoded, meaning you can't sound them out, and they don't have any meaning of their own. So I want you to think for just a second, what might be a sight word? If you came up with a word like a, and, the, those are sight words, okay? And concept of print is the understanding of print and how print works. So, what actually are emergent literacy skills? Okay, emergency, emergent literacy skills are oral language, concepts about print, environmental print, alphabetic knowledge, phonemic awareness, sight vocabulary, emergent or pretend reading, and emergent or pretend writing. Okay. And one theory about how children develop all of these things that you see here in front of them is something called constructivism, okay? And what that means is that a person constructs their own understanding and their own perspective about it when they're introduced to new ideas. And what we know is that this happens with children based on their background knowledge, their imagination, their experiences. So that's one of the reasons why it's so important that that starts at the very, very early age, right at birth, where we're reading aloud to children so that we're offering these offering them these experiences or this background knowledge. So when they're introduced to something in school, they have some concept about that. Okay. So that's really, really, really important. So early literacy involves reading, writing, speaking, listening, reviewing, and visually representing something. Okay, so that's our early literacy. So what about environmental print? That was one of the things. So what is environmental print? Environmental print is print that a child would see in the real world. And I gave you some examples, okay? Like street signs, billboards, restaurant signs, labels on cereal boxes, or other food products that they see in their daily lives, okay? I'm going to show you in class some ideas about how to use environmental print in your classroom. It's one of those first things that you see in preschools, 3-year-olds, 4-year-olds, even 2-year-olds, really, because they're very familiar. They can look at McDonald's and they can point to the sign as you drive by, and they can say McDonald's, and they don't know that that's an M. They surely don't know that that word says McDonald's, but they're familiar with it, okay? That's that experience that we want them to have. So what about phonemic awareness? What exactly is phonemic awareness? Well, phonemic awareness is an awareness of letters and sounds in spoken words, okay? And that is the key, spoken words. And one time I had a teacher tell me that phonemic awareness, you can do it in the dark, meaning you can turn lights out, you can close your eyes, and I can hear you say the word bike. And I don't need to see B-I-K-E, okay? But I can hear you say bike. And I can hear that there is a at the beginning of the word bike because I have phonemic awareness, okay? I don't have to see it in print. I can just hear it because it's in the spoken word. So the next section in your textbook is language acquisition and development. So language acquisition and development, oral language develops in a nurturing environment that promotes reading, writing, speaking, and listening. And here's what we know. Oral language development lays the foundation for all early literacy development, okay? Oral language development. So oral language is that word in which is spoken and then understood. And the only way we're doing that with kids is to read aloud to them, have conversations with them, explain things to them so that they develop that oral language, okay? Language acquisition also involves purposeful communication, just like I was talking about, okay? So it's so, so, so important. There are actually two types of language. One is called receptive language, and I want you to think about that word receptive for a minute. Receptive, at the beginning, you almost think of the word receive, okay? That's the language in which you receive. Expressive language, it means to express, okay? That's when you're telling something. So receptive language is when children understand the meanings of words and can follow directions, okay? Meaning you're receiving the information and you can understand it. Expressive language is when they repeat words, they express their ideas, their feelings, they answer questions, okay? So when the child is developing these two types of language, receptive language is going to come before expressive language, okay? They're going to be able to take that knowledge that language in and understand it and follow those directions before they can actually repeat the words and express their own ideas. And that's because they've got to get that language, okay? They've got to come up with those words so that they can do that on their own by using expressive language. So there are stages in the reading process, okay? So emergent literacy is when children develop an understanding of letters and sounds, is the beginning of the reading process, and it involves decoding, okay, meaning sounding out, phonological awareness, and comprehension skills, which deals with semantics and syntax. And I'm going to talk to you about that in just a minute. When children are reading, they construct meaning to comprehend their text. And reading it really is a multifaceted process between the reader, the text, and their purpose. Why are they reading it? Okay. And a lot of times, the way you comprehend or your interpretation of the text involves lots of factors like language and culture. Do you understand it? Do you know, that kind of thing? Social context, your past experiences. What do you know about the subject? Okay, so a lot of that plays into comprehending and constructing meaning from that text. So in your book on page 33, you will see the stages of the reading process. And there's actually 5 stages of the reading process. And so I want you just to look at that in your book and be familiar with it. And we're going to talk about that a little bit more as we go on. So while you are reading and during that reading process, those 5 stages of that reading process, children use their decoding skills and vocabulary to read and comprehend the text, okay? And so while we're doing that, we're using some cueing systems, okay? And you see the cueing systems in front of you. There's one called graphophonic or phonological, semantic, syntactic, and pragmatic, okay? So let's look at these. So what is graphophonic or phonological cueing system? What is that? That is just referring to the way words are spelled and the way they sound. Okay, so referring to word spellings is graphic, meaning the letters, okay, they're actually a graphic symbols, or the sounds like the phonics. Remember going all the way back, we said they needed to know all 26 letters, upper and lowercase, including the consonant and vowel sounds. Well, this is the graphophonic or phonological cueing system. Semantic cueing system has to do with the words, okay, the meaning of the words, what the words mean. That's coming from that oral language, right, and those experiences. Syntactic cueing system is the syntax or the word order, the sentence structure. I'm going to do something with you in class about this, and you're going to see exactly how you as an adult practice that syntactic cueing system and you don't even know it, okay? And you get that syntactic cueing system or that word order and sentence structure from listening to people read alouds, okay? So you get that word order and how sentences and the structure of words in the sentence. And the last one is pragmatic cueing system, and it deals with the social aspects of language, like varies among ethnic groups. It has a lot to do with dialect. If you've ever read Junie B. Jones, or one of your children have ever read Junie B. Jones, pragmatic comes as children develop as well as the older they get, and like in a developmental standpoint. And so one time Junie B. Jones is reading a book and she says, men's wear pants, instead of men wear pants. She knew that there needed to be that S to make it plural, but she didn't understand that men was already plural. So in her writing and in the book, when you're reading something, her dialogue, she says, oh, but mom, men's wear pants. Okay. And so that is where she's just not quite there yet with that pragmatic part. And the neat thing about this is that all good readers use all 4 of these cueing systems automatically when they read and write. And they do it automatically. They don't even think about it. They're just doing it. And it comes from exposure, people. It just comes from more and more and more reading aloud and dialogue with children. So we know that it has to start early. It can't wait till we get to school, okay? So there's got to be some family literacy strategies, and we as teachers have got to get the word out there to parents that they have to help, and they have to do a lot before they get to school because it's so important. And here's something. Reading aloud is the single most important activity in building a foundation for learning to read. Reading aloud. Remember, all the way back at the beginning, I told you that the quote in your book said, children are made readers on the laps of their parents. Okay, here it is right here. Reading aloud, single most important predictor to reading success. Okay, so here are the ways that a family can do that. Ritual, they need to set aside a special time every day, certain same time every day that they read aloud. Create that environment, create a space that's conducive to reading and writing. Access, this is probably the key one that lots of people have issues with, is having plenty of books on hand. Okay, that matches the children's level as well as their interest. Okay, and then dialogue. Just don't read the book and then put it down. You got to talk about it. You got to talk about what you're reading. You got to talk about the characters. You got to talk about the setting, what's happening in the book, how you feel about it. Do you have a personal connection to it? It's not, it doesn't stop just because you read aloud. Okay. There's got to be that dialogue. And there are some components of effective literacy instruction, and this would be like, well, in the classroom, storytelling strategies, reading environments, and use of picture books, and how important and powerful they are to your classroom instruction. And remember, you make the difference. Like I said earlier, you make the difference. That's it. Thanks for joining me for chapter 2. I'll see y'all next time.